Today we are on video 15 of the MBTI series, and we are talking about ESTP, also known as the entrepreneur. Before anything else, let me say the same thing I say every time. Your MBTI type is not a verdict on who you are as a person. It is a tool, a way to better understand how you think, how you process the world, and how you connect with others. It does not tell you whether someone is good or bad. People are shaped by so many things, including their upbringing, their mental health, their current stress levels, and the people they are surrounded by. So use this as a guide, not a rulebook. Now, ESTP is a particularly interesting type to talk about because it shares absolutely no letters with INFJ. Not one. And yet, the dynamic between these two types can be genuinely fascinating. Total opposites often are. Let me break down what ESTP actually means. The E is for extroversion. The S is for sensing. The T is for thinking. And the P is for perceiving. So this is an extroverted, sensing, thinking, perceiving type. The entrepreneur name fits well because this type is action-oriented, adaptable, and naturally drawn to real-world problem-solving in high-energy, fast-moving situations. They do not sit around theorizing. They act, they observe, they adjust, and they act again. Let me get into the main traits. The first thing most people notice about ESTPs is their energy. They are alive in a very physical, present, in-the-moment kind of way. They are not thinking about what happened last year or planning for 5 years from now. They are fully here, right now, responding to what is directly in front of them. That presence is something people feel when they are around this type. There is a kind of electricity to them that is hard to ignore. The second trait is their boldness. ESTPs are not easily intimidated. They move toward challenges rather than away from them. They are comfortable taking risks, making fast decisions, and handling situations that would freeze other types. Whether it is a physical challenge, a social situation, or a business opportunity, they tend to jump in rather than overthink. The third trait is their practicality. These are not abstract thinkers. They are grounded in the concrete, the real, the immediate. They learn by doing, not by reading or listening to lengthy explanations. They want to get their hands on something and figure it out as they go. And often they figure it out faster that way than most people would, with a much longer preparation period. The fourth trait is their social ease. ESTPs are naturally charming. They can walk into almost any room and start a conversation with almost anyone within minutes. They are funny, they are direct, and they have a way of making interactions feel exciting and alive. People are drawn to their energy even when they cannot fully explain it. What are their real strengths? Their ability to stay calm and effective in a crisis is probably the most impressive one. When something goes wrong, most people panic or freeze. ESTPs assess the situation quickly and start moving. They do not need all the information before they act. They trust their instincts and their ability to adjust mid-course, which makes them genuinely effective in fast-moving, high-pressure situations. Their adaptability is another real strength. They are not attached to plans or structures in the way that more organized types are. If the situation changes, they change with it. If a plan falls apart, they improvise. That flexibility allows them to navigate unexpected situations with an ease that more rigid types find genuinely hard to replicate. Their ability to read people and situations quickly is also worth mentioning. ESTPs are perceptive in a very immediate, social way. They pick up on body language, on energy shifts, on the unspoken dynamics in a room. They use this awareness in conversations, in negotiations, and in any situation where reading the other person accurately gives them an advantage. And their ability to take action without waiting for the perfect moment is a strength that produces real results. A lot of people wait until everything is aligned before they move. ESTPs start moving and align things as they go. In entrepreneurship, in sports, in emergency situations, that bias toward action over hesitation is genuinely valuable. Now the weaknesses, because every type has real ones, and it is worth being honest. One of the biggest challenges for ESTPs is their difficulty with long-term planning and follow-through. They are excellent in the short term, responding to what is right in front of them. But sustained commitment to a long-term goal that requires months or years of consistent effort without immediate feedback is genuinely hard for this type. The novelty wears off, they get restless, and something more immediate and exciting pulls their attention. Their risk-taking, while often a strength, can also work against them. They can make impulsive decisions that feel right in the moment but have consequences they did not think through. They move fast, and sometimes that speed means they miss important information that a slower, more deliberate approach would have caught. Their emotional expression is also an area where they often struggle. ESTPs are not naturally inclined toward deep emotional conversations. They prefer action over processing. When someone needs emotional support, their instinct is often to offer a solution or a distraction rather than simply being present with the feeling. For people who need genuine emotional connection and vulnerability in a relationship, this can feel like a significant gap. They can also be quite blunt in a way that does not always account for how their words land. They say what they observe directly and without a lot of filtering. That honesty is something many people appreciate, but delivered without awareness of impact, it can come across as harsh or dismissive even when that was not the intention. How do they handle stress? When an ESTP is under significant stress, they tend to seek external stimulation. They want to move, to do something, to get out of whatever is making them feel trapped or stuck. Sitting still and processing internally is not comfortable for them. They cope best through physical activity, through engaging with other people, through working on something concrete that they can see progress in. If the stress becomes too much and they cannot find an outlet, they can become impulsive or reckless, making decisions quickly just to feel like something is happening. That urgency to act when they are overwhelmed can sometimes make things worse rather than better. They recover fastest when they have some freedom of movement, when the pressure is lifted enough for them to breathe, and when they can be around people who bring energy rather than more heaviness. How do they make friends? Easily and quickly, at least on the surface. ESTPs are naturally social, and their boldness makes it easy for them to initiate connection. They are fun to be around, they are entertaining, and they have a way of making any gathering feel more alive. People gravitate to them. Deeper friendships take more effort, not because they do not care, but because depth requires slowing down and sitting with something long enough for real connection to develop. That is not always where this type is most comfortable. The friends who do get past the surface find someone who is fiercely loyal and genuinely supportive in practical, real-world ways. How do they handle relationships? In romantic relationships, ESTPs bring excitement, spontaneity, and a kind of engaged presence that their partners often find exhilarating, especially in the early stages. They are not the type to settle into a dull routine. They keep things interesting. They initiate new experiences. They are attentive in the moment in a way that feels very real. The challenge is that they can struggle with the deeper emotional intimacy that most long-term relationships eventually require. When the excitement of the beginning fades and what is left is the slower, quieter work of actually knowing someone deeply and being known in return, this type can start to feel restless. They need a partner who is secure, who has their own life and interests, and who does not need constant verbal reassurance or emotional processing. A partner who can match their energy, who values independence, and who does not take their directness personally, tends to work best. How do they handle conflict? Directly and usually quickly. ESTPs do not like unresolved tension sitting around. If there is a problem, they want to deal with it and move on. They are not the type to brood or go silent for days processing something. They address it, they say what they think, and they want resolution. The difficulty is that their version of resolution does not always include the emotional component that the other person needs. They can say what happened, state their position, and consider the matter closed while the other person still needs to feel heard and understood before they are ready to move forward. That gap in what each person considers resolved can create repeated cycles of the same conflict. How do they deal with family? In family dynamics, ESTPs tend to be the person who keeps things lively, who handles practical problems, and who shows up in action-based ways. They are the one who fixes things, who organizes the activity, who pushes the group to do something rather than just sitting around. They can sometimes struggle with the more traditional family expectations around emotional availability, patience, and the slow, consistent maintenance of relationships that some family cultures require. But within families that appreciate directness and practicality, they are often valued and respected. What are their usual interests and passions? ESTPs are typically drawn to anything that involves physical engagement, sensory experience, or a real-world challenge. Sports, travel, business, performance, construction, competitive activities, and anything that produces immediate, visible results tends to hold their interest. They are often interested in how things work mechanically and practically. They like tools, systems, and processes that they can interact with directly. Abstract interests that do not connect to something tangible in the real world tend to hold their attention for much shorter periods. What careers suit them? ESTPs tend to do well in fast-paced, high-energy environments that reward quick thinking and practical skill. Sales, entrepreneurship, emergency response, athletics, law enforcement, military, construction, performance, competitive sports, and business development are all common fits. They thrive in roles where there is real variety, real stakes, and the ability to see the impact of their actions directly. They tend to struggle in environments that are highly structured, slow-paced, or that require sustained focus on abstract or theoretical work without any tangible connection to real-world results. Now, from my perspective as an INFJ. As I mentioned at the start, ESTP and INFJ share no letters at all. We are opposite in every preference. And that total difference is genuinely interesting to think about. What I appreciate about this type is their boldness and their presence. There is something genuinely refreshing about someone who does not overthink things, who just moves and deals with whatever comes. As someone who can get lost in internal processing, watching an ESTP navigate a situation with that kind of ease is something I find quietly impressive. Their honesty is also something I can appreciate, even when the delivery is blunt. At least you always know where you stand. There is no hidden agenda, no layers of implication to decode. What they say is what they mean. For a type like me who is always reading between the lines, interacting with someone where there is genuinely nothing between the lines can actually be a relief. What I find harder is the emotional depth gap. As an INFJ, I am always looking for what is underneath, what is unspoken, what the deeper meaning is beneath the surface of an interaction. An ESTP who is fully present in the moment and not particularly interested in going deeper can feel to me like we are having two entirely different conversations. I am looking for connection on a level that they may not be oriented toward at all. The impulsivity can also be difficult for me. I tend to think carefully before I act, and I tend to plan ahead in ways that are important to me. Being around someone who moves fast and improvises constantly can feel unsettling, even when I admire the confidence behind it. But total opposites are not always incompatible. Sometimes the gap creates a genuinely useful dynamic where each person sees something the other misses. An INFJ who tends to overthink benefits from the ESTP's bias toward action. An ESTP who tends to miss the deeper emotional layer of situations benefits from the INFJ's attentiveness to what is unspoken. When both people are self-aware and willing to appreciate what the other brings, the differences can create something interesting rather than just friction. How can ESTPs grow? Developing more patience with processes that do not produce immediate results is one of the most important areas. Not every valuable thing is fast. Learning to stay present in the slower, less exciting phases of a commitment, whether that is a relationship, a project, or a personal goal, is what separates real long-term success from a series of exciting starts that never quite become anything. Getting more comfortable with emotional depth is also worth working on. Not because they need to become someone they are not, but because the relationships that matter most tend to require some willingness to sit with something that cannot be fixed or resolved, just experienced and shared. And developing more awareness of how their directness affects the people around them, specifically learning to adjust their delivery based on who they are talking to, makes their communication significantly more effective without requiring them to compromise their honesty. ESTPs are some of the most genuinely alive people you will encounter. They bring energy, they bring action, and they have a way of making the ordinary feel a little more exciting. The challenge is learning to slow down enough to let the deeper things catch up with them. Before we close, I want to ask you something. If you are an ESTP, what is something about your type that people consistently get wrong? Or, if you have an ESTP in your life, what has the experience actually been like? Leave it in the comments. I want to hear real stories. Thanks for watching. If this video resonated with you, please consider hitting the subscribe button. I want to be upfront and share that I use this text-to-speech voice to tell my stories because, as a full-time ESL teacher, I have to be very careful with my vocal cords. Managing vocal nodules means I have to save my voice for my students, but I did not want that to stop me from sharing these unfiltered thoughts with you. I am Jhonna, and I am currently working toward my goal of 1,000 subscribers, so I can finally monetize this channel and turn this passion into a sustainable part of my future. This is my diary of solo living here in the Philippines, and your support, whether through a comment or a sub, helps me keep this channel growing. If you would like to help out even more, you can check out the buy a treat for my pets link in the description. My dogs definitely appreciate the love. Make sure you are subscribed so you do not miss the next update. Thank you for being such an important part of this journey. I am Jhonna, and I will see you in the next one.